SB fam, carnivores, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Bella the Steak and Butter Gal. I hope you all are having a Gouda meat fuel day as usual. Drop a comment down below and update me on how you all are doing. So today's video is an extremely highly requested video featuring Dr. Elizabeth Bright yet again. So this is going to be my part 2 with Dr. Elizabeth Bright. If you missed my first video with Dr. Bright, it was such a popular video. You guys all loved the topics that we discussed and the information that we covered regarding high-fat carnivore diet living and the 1 stick of butter a day protocol. So do check out that part 1 video down below in the description box. In today's video, we will be covering a lot of different topics, female hormones, but also men's hormones today, as well as everything you need to know about fat fasting and what we can do to manage and smooth out our cortisol levels. Before I invite Dr. Bright, Raymond, and Emily onto the video, I wanted to announce that Dr. Bright will yet again be a guest speaker in the Steak and Butter Gang community. We absolutely love inviting her back on as a guest speaker because the community always has so many questions, follow-up questions, but also personal, detailed questions regarding hormone, thyroid, and adrenal health. So if you would like to submit your personal questions for Dr. Bright in the next 30-day carnivore challenge, December challenge will also feature all of the faces shown on the screen. As you can see, it's going to be a fantastic lineup of amazing, brilliant experts and our favorite carnivores in the community. Please go to sbgmeetup.com to sign up and not miss her next guest Q&A. Dr. Bright, welcome. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. Nice to be back here with you all.
So our first video together, I just have to tell you that it opened up so many people's minds and eyes to the benefits of fat. That video was their favorite on my channel that I have ever done. So I feel so honored that you were a part of it, Dr. Bright. Today, as you can see, I have invited on 2 different coaches to join the conversation. Hopefully we'll touch on topics that are different from part 1 video. First, for my new viewers, let's just introduce ourselves, starting with Dr. Bright.
Hi, I'm an osteopath and naturopath. I live in Italy. I specialize in thyroid function and adrenal function and the entire web of the endocrine cycle, which those hormones are made from fat, the cholesterol we eat. So that's why it's so important to eat it.
And Emily, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Emily Harveau. I help out with the gang as a coach, as a carnivore coach, and I have had a tremendous healing in my body through high-fat carnivore. So Dr. Bright's message has been so important and special. I've known about it ever since the book first came out, and I've just been a huge fan of hers. This is a big honor to get to visit with her.
And Raymond.
Hi, I'm Raymond Nazon, 5-year carnivore. It's always been high-fat carnivore. It's mostly ribeye, and also the fat trimmings is what I eat first. So that's always been big for me, but I'm here. I coach in the SB gang also, and I'm glad to be talking to you, Dr. Bright.
Yay. Okay, let's open up the conversation with the most popular question that I got right after that first video we filmed. And that is, what about men? So do men benefit just as strongly with the high-fat approach, the 1 stick of butter a day protocol?
Okay, that would really depend upon stress. So I do think that women have more of a need for steroid hormones. So estrogens, progesterones, there are a lot of receptors there, and obviously testosterone as well. I do think that men benefit when there is a huge stress component. I think the way Raymond's eating is perfect. Fat trimmings and the ribeyes. I don't think that every male needs as much fat possibly as women do. That's just been my experience. I'm sure that if there are issues, hormone issues, testosterone issues, lack of energy, fatigue, things like that, they would benefit for sure.
What do you notice with men and diet? I know we're talking about the nuance of the high fat with a carnivore diet is highly beneficial. What are some of the benefits that just a man just eating carnivore will notice and different from eating a carb-based diet or the standard American diet?
Absolutely reduced inflammation. And there's the question about the soy boy phenomenon, which is estrogen levels, which are caused by carbohydrates. So you remove the carbohydrates, you will lower estrogen. I would say unnaturally high estrogen levels. We have a lot of young men around here who eat a 100% carb diet, and they're looking that way when they reach adolescence. So adolescence, when the body is forming sexual characteristics, there's a whole lot of carbohydrate in the diet. The body will use that and they will form anomalous sexual characteristics, which is fat adipose tissue in the pectoral area.
I've noticed a linear, depending on whether I'm fasting or whether I'm actually eating properly, which, I'll go seasonal with that. But I do notice a muscular difference when I'm eating a lot more fat and eating more often.
We're all raised to believe that the more protein you eat, the more muscle you grow, but it's more that when you're ripping your muscle tissue to shreds, you need protein to regenerate it and to reform it. So I think that it depends on what activity you're really doing. Fat is energy. So I think that if things are running smoothly, the muscle the protein you do eat, it won't be used for energy. It will be more easily, it will become muscle because you have fat for energy. You're not turning it into glucose as you would if there were no fat.
Mm-hmm. And that seems to be, what they're after. That seems to be the goal with their physique, is to really lay down that muscle, but making sure that there's enough fat so that the protein can do the job, that the fat does the energy job, and the protein is available to do what they're actually wanting it to do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point.
And Dr. Bright, you did mention the soy boy phenomenon. That's one of our questions. So why is the soy boy phenomenon and having man boobs so common these days?
More carbs. We know that excess carbohydrate increases estrogen levels. Yep. That's why when you have polycystic ovary disease and you go on a low carb diet, the excess estrogen, which is growing anomalous tissue in the endometrium, goes away. So excess carbohydrate increases estrogen, and the boy boobs or the man boobs, whatever you call it, come from excess estrogen, which is caused by too many carbs. And I see it all the time in Italy, especially southern Italy, where it's all pizza and focaccia.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, the boys on the beach. Yeah. You look at their photographer. I mean, I'm a street photographer, and there are a couple of photographers in Naples, and you can just see it's kind of like epigenetically, if you get diabetes or not, what your parents ate. If your parents ate a ton of carbs, you are epigenetically predisposed towards getting diabetes. So if your parents ate a lot of carbs, if they have sort of a excess estrogen, that adolescent boy, his friend might be skinny as a rail and not have any and eat the same food, but that boy will have adipose tissue because of excess estrogen in places where it shouldn't be.
Now, the big question is this reversible on a carnivore diet that you've noticed?
Absolutely.
Have you had any? Okay, that's
absolutely. It's a lot easier to remove excess estrogen from carbohydrates than it is from synthetic hormones. So I would think that they are. I mean, it's your body made it. Fat soluble hormone that your body made. It's pretty much easy to eliminate once you remove the carbs. It's a response. HRT is going to hang around a couple of months, a few months in the body. The metabolites of it will hang around a little bit more because it's something foreign that your body has to figure out how to eliminate. How do you break it down? It's foreign. It's synthetic.
And Raymond, since you're a male, the only male here, maybe you can explain with your own experience, because before you went carnivore and high-fat carnivore, you were eating a standard American diet. You were eating all of the carbs, all of the junk. So what difference and impacts have you felt with your own body?
Yeah, I mean, I was developing more flab here, for example, since we're talking about but it wasn't pronounced. Like, some people that I've seen as I went carnivore, even now that I put on a little bit of weight, because this is fall time for me, it never goes back to, having that little soft, it's always hard. It's got muscle on there. So it's totally different. I used to suffer from ED very, very, very bad. So not eating disorder, and the other one,
erectile dysfunction. Yes.
Right. And that totally turned it around too. I mean, I want to say in the first 6 months, I saw significant difference. Within the year was just kept on going more and more, and I thought that was very unusual. As my muscles started forming, though, that took about 1.5 years before I saw the man boobs kind of peel off, and the layer of the extra inflammation on the stomach totally started peeling off. So it's very interesting to observe it in myself.
You mentioned men having ED. So what can men do for their prostate health?
Take iodine.
Take iodine.
Iodine. Okay.
There are
prostate too,
iodine
okay.
molecules. Yeah, absolutely. It's not just for women. That's very important. The prostate. I've had patients with prostatitis, and they took large doses of iodine, which took care of that.
Are there signs to look out for that issue?
Urine flow, the whole thing with pain, aching,
okay.
lower back pain, even heel pain.
Heel, really? Okay.
Well, the lumbar spine, right? The lumbar spine innervates the prostate tissue. So those same, if you look at dermatomes, when we're a fetus, our neural tube, the spine develops. Obviously, it's really small, and all that tissue, which when we grow, our arms are connected to our dorsal spine, so the pain in the fingers can be referred pain from the upper back, and foot and outside, inside, leg, knee pain can be referred pain from the lumbar spine. As intestinal pain, the lumbar spine also innervates the intestines. So I've had people come to me with bloating and incredible intestinal abdominal cramps, and I work on their lumbar spine, and that fixes it. Of course, they should change diet too.
So if we're saying, like, in broad spectrums and in broad scope, like, this high fat approach is so helpful for women, carnivore is going to be helpful for men. I actually just want to hear some other kind of tips in general for their well-being. What sorts of advice do you have towards men?
Definitely address stress. More energy will increase libido, of course, right? So
right.
Lowering stress levels will increase libido. You're not distracted from, if you're not in fight or flight mode, you are able to concentrate on things that, if we're talking sexuality, that are pleasurable. So, I mean, obviously, men's health isn't just sexuality, but I think that depression, we see a lot of depression in adolescents these days, both male and female. ADHD, young boys and girls are put on Ritalin and ADHD medications because they're not concentrating. So that to me, that would be blood sugar issues, which again goes to the adrenals and possibly the thyroid. So,
well, there seemed to be a cycle on that, kind of like what you just said. I mean, it's interesting because because I had issues, performing and stuff like that. That really actually led me into a depression. So it's it makes you think whether they're related or not, so, but it affects the whole system, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
depression is that the body has so many ways to say, hey, I'm missing something. So it will never use one. It will use 50.
I think one statement that you said, Dr. Bright, in our first video together that really shocked most of the viewers was when you said eating butter lowers cortisol. And that's something that I personally have felt. When I'm stressed out or I feel a little bit irritable, I eat butter straight out of the fridge and I feel immediately better. Could you go more in depth about that, Dr. Bright?
We make all our steroid hormones out of cholesterol. So that's the master ingredient. And it has to be animal fat. And as different steroid hormones are metabolized, your endocrine system responds by making cortisol for you to adapt to the stress, to handle the stress, not to freeze in fight or flight mode, right? You don't want to freeze because then you'll get eaten. So you send vasomotor, you have a hot flash, your liver is producing sugar for you to have energy to run. All that's happening, and your cortisol is really high. So the fat will address that by replenishing the stress response. So you don't run out of the stress response, because running out of the stress response is stressful. And there's a study that they did with athletes, 2 weeks on a high fat diet and 2 weeks on a high carb diet. And they pushed them to the max. And obviously exercising, training raises your cortisol level because your body sees it as stress. And those that ate a high-fat diet, they measured their cortisol levels over a 2-week period, had lower cortisol levels.
Oh my goodness. So could we say that fat is like an aphrodisiac? No. We just have a little something going that way, gets everybody relaxed in a calm state.
Yeah. Well, I talked to a woman today who said her eyes lit up when she started eating fat. So I just think it's energy, really. Everything needs energy.
Yes.
So there's ways to actually measure cortisol.
Yes, absolutely. Not blood, not serum. Salivary cortisol is the best way.
Salivary. Okay, that's
You
good.
might want to measure your circadian rhythm. So your cortisol, your adrenals produce, your adrenal cortex, which is the part of the adrenal, not the medulla, produces the cortisol. It starts producing about 2 a.m, very gentle, amount of cortisol, and it's supposed to peak in the morning. So it's a gentle rise. The people that wake at 2 and 3 and 4 in the morning are having cortisol spikes because it's not able to make this gentle upward curve until you reach this apex in the morning. And then that's when it's supposed to be higher. And then it gently goes down until nighttime when you go to sleep. And that's when melatonin is produced. So you can't have melatonin and cortisol at the same time. It's one or the other. So if cortisol levels are high at night, you won't sleep. You'll be wired but tired.
Wired but tired.
And the way to measure that is to do a salivary cortisol test. I always recommend a 4-point salivary cortisol test to see if you're able to follow the rhythm.
Ooh.
Ah, I love that.
And so what this reserve, like this fat reserve that we're kind of replenishing, it just helps it smooth, nice, smooth, even journey.
Yeah, it smooths it out. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
As we are in this carnivore space, we're dealing with people that have a food addiction, sugar addiction, carb addiction. And so the concept of being addicted to particular things has come up. I've developed this, it's been around forever, this brown butter bites, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's so popular, and the carnivore spaces embrace this. And I will, from time to time, have folks say, I think I'm addicted to those, or I think I'm addicted to butter. And I think I'm addicted. I've never actually heard anybody say they're addicted to fat trimmings. I haven't had that one yet.
No, butter, I can definitely say yes.
Maybe it's because butter has that like extra boost of flavor and there's still some traces of lactose. What do you think about that? Like, can butter be addicting?
The lactose is the key right here. If you make ghee, the quantity of protein and lactose that rises to the top is just minimal. It's a tiny amount.
Yeah.
So I don't think you're going to get an insulin spike from that quantity of lactose. You have to be incredibly sensitive. It's really hard to be addicted to fat. It's really hard because it doesn't cause that insulin spike. You can be addicted to protein. You can be addicted to carbs. Protein obviously causes much less of an insulin spike, but it does cause a bit of an insulin spike. That doesn't. It lowers it. That's why I tell people to measure the ketones after they eat fat. So this whole, all the research papers say cortisol is raised after eating. That's because you're eating carbs and protein. If you eat a bunch of fat and you measure ketones after, the blood sugar drops, the ketones rise.
So with insulin spikes, that seems to be issue, right? Or blood glucose spikes. So is that the same for cortisol? It's cortisol spikes that are dangerous?
Exactly. A spike will cause the liver. Remember, it's a stress response, right? So a spike is danger. A slow, gentle rise is not danger. A spike means danger. What does the liver do? It produces a load of sugar in order for you to run away. So the liver doesn't know that it's spiking because you took CBD or you danced all night or I don't know what you did, or you ran a marathon. It doesn't know that it's just producing a lot of blood sugar in order for you to run away. Now, I personally, if I paddleboard 2 days in a row, I won't sleep well the second day. Because my cortisol levels are high when I'm paddleboarding, unfortunately. And if I do it one day, I'll sleep great. The second day, if I do it, I skip a day, unless it's raining. And I try it, I went twice this week in a row, which I don't usually do. And I didn't sleep as well the second night.
Interesting. So it's bad to keep it also elevated too. So it's not just a spike. It's not good to have it elevated for long periods of time.
Elevation is degenerative. It burns bones. I write about that in my book. It disintegrates. It's like a fire in your house. So your body, your endocrine system will respond by not producing cortisol. So ACTH, which is the hormone from the brain that tells the adrenals, okay, now produce cortisol, it'll stop telling the adrenals to produce cortisol. And that's why you have people with low cortisol levels, not because there's anything wrong with their adrenals. That's really rare. It's because that's been dampened because the fire has to be put out.
Yeah. So besides eating animal fats to smooth out those cortisol ups and downs, we often see exercise as a good stressor on the body, right?
Yeah.
So how does one know if they're overdoing it, just to test the cortisol and see, or is there any other signs that we can watch out for?
Not recovering, being sore. You're supposed to exercise and then feel better. Your muscles aren't supposed to hurt. You're not supposed to push yourself. I remember when I was doing Kung Fu, I would just push and push and push and push, and you don't really recover. So your performance is impaired. So you're not as good at the activity that you would be if you were not having a high cortisol level all the time.
I push through until it gets numb, right? But the pain's there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the horrible exercise and diet will not, you won't have a heart attack and you'll supposedly live longer. That's just bullshit. It's and the Belinda Fetke, who did all these amazing research papers, who produced these articles, Dr. Fetke's wife, Gary Fetke, connecting the rise in this obsession with diet and exercise to companies like Kellogg's and Coca-Cola, and the continuous noise about diet and exercise from the Harvard and everywhere has been really because of things like Seventh-day Adventists who sold grain, sold cereals, who viewed meat as something that makes you masturbate or want to have sex. Right. So over 100 years or more, that message has become this noise of diet and exercise will keep you young and healthy, and it does not. I believe in exercise, but not to the point of like you and I pushed myself too.
Yeah. I agree. I've been more about movements than anything else. It's great to move, but exercise. Ability. Yeah. And it's like, what are we exercising for sometimes?
Right,
it's like,
it should be fun.
It should be fun. Exactly.
As we're trying to unravel this mystery of, are we triggering our cortisol too much from the exercise? Your sleep patterns matter a lot. That's what I'm hearing. Yeah. So for you, how you're sleeping is giving you the feedback and the telltale signs for how much exercise is too much or not enough.
Well, since we're on the topic of sleep, we get a lot of questions regarding sleep issues that arise after going carnivore. Most of them being that phrase you use, wired but still tired, but they cannot fall asleep and stay asleep. Why does that happen in your experience?
In my experience, they're not eating enough fat.
Okay.
People were told, we've been told, or I was told, that if you eat a big meal before bed, you won't go to sleep. Yeah, if it's carbs. Back when I was a kid, the Alka-Seltzer, you didn't need to, I can't believe I ate the whole thing, was an ad because you ate too much and now you have indigestion. Protein, I think, would probably cause more indigestion than fat. So a balanced meal of high fat and an adequate amount of protein is not going to impede your sleep.
Yeah, we usually say if you can't fall asleep and stay asleep, either you're under eating in general or you're just not eating enough fat. And we hear over and over when somebody tries eating just straight up butter or pure fat right before bed, it helps a lot with their sleep.
Absolutely.
If someone were in a biphasic pattern where they're waking up in the middle of the night, would it be appropriate to take a little bit of butter to get them to kind of kick back over?
Absolutely. I tell people to keep fat by the bed so you don't go in the kitchen. The lights go on and you wake up. You just literally roll over and put it in your mouth, because they don't have dogs or anything eating it in the night. But yes, because you're waking up because of a cortisol pattern. It's either a high cortisol or low cortisol. Unfortunately, low cortisol is exactly the same because you have a more narrow stress response ability. And you will go back to, it's a blood sugar response. You're waking up because you've got hypoglycemia. And fix that. It's reactive hypoglycemia.
One of my favorite ways to reduce and manage stress is to protect my eyes from blue light. And these blue light blocker glasses are a fantastic way to protect our sensitive eyes to blue light. So laptop, desktop, computer, iPad, even watching TV will expose your eyes to blue light. And too much blue light will prevent our bodies from producing enough melatonin to fall asleep at night and to stay asleep. That's why I like to wear these blue blockers daily. And I have two different colors here, this yellow yellow one is a little bit higher in protection. So I wear this late at night if I'm editing or if I have long hours in front of my laptop. So this is what the yellow ones look like. They're extremely comfortable, light, and I like the design and how you can adjust how high it sits on your nose bridge. And this clear one is the computer glasses. So I wear these a lot if I'm hosting a lot of meetings throughout the day. You can wear it anywhere you go at any time of the day. If you guys would like to check out Bon Charge Blue Blockers and invest in one for yourself, especially since the holidays are coming up, I do feel like these are excellent gifts for family and friends too. Check out the URL linked in the description box, and you all can get 20% off your order with the discount code SBGAL.
What about the people that notice that extra fat seems to put fat around them? There's some people that seem to be very not using the fats. Their body doesn't use it properly, and it seems to store it as fat.
People with thyroid issues or low cortisol issues or high cortisol issues cannot metabolize. So stuff doesn't get burnt. Your metabolism is affected. So the fat around the middle has sort of been classically associated with high cortisol levels. The classic Cushing's patient, a patient that overproduces cortisol because they have an adrenal tumor or something that causes overproduction, they will have fat around the middle and have skinny legs. But of course, there are degrees of everything. High cortisol level will cause you to, as I said last time, hold on to fat, and you're going to hold on to fat where it's easily reachable, right? You're not going to put it on your head, you're not going to put it in your feet, you're going to put it where your body can access it and have it in case it needs it to run away. So I think that addressing cortisol issues and possibly thyroid issues would be the answer there.
Stress, I feel like, is often forgotten or neglected. So anytime anyone's saying, I'm gaining weight on carnivore, I always think, check your stress levels, check what else you're doing that's stressing your body out. So I think this is a good segue to talk about your favorite topic, Dr. Bright, fasting.
Fasting, yeah.
Is there any scenario where fasting could benefit weight loss?
A fat fast, I accept. I'll accept a fat fast. I could recommend that. I would say 3-day max. I wouldn't go longer than that. I don't count calories. I just have people eat fat because fat, after a while, your body just says that's enough. I do try to have them follow 3 meals a day, regular circadian rhythm.
Is there an amount of protein max per day for someone that's fat fasting? Will they have any protein at all, or just no?
Usually no protein.
No.
Is there an amount of fats that they're allowed to have, like a certain calorie amount, or
no? Satiety, just
satiety.
So they feel satiated. I mean, I haven't had anybody been able to do it more than 3 days.
No, I wouldn't think so.
They great the first 2 days, and they lose. They might lose. I've had people lose 5 pounds. It's something that you can consistently do in the sense that you are nourishing your body, so you're not triggering a stress signal, right? But it has to be sustainable. I have people who tell me I can't eat breakfast because cortisol is usually highest at this point, but they are not. It's not the healthy kind of high. It's usually too high. They'll smoke a cigarette or drink a cup of coffee, but they won't eat food because food nauseates them at that time. Because when your cortisol levels are high, food is nauseating. You're not supposed to eat while you're running away from danger. So that's out of balance. If you remove stimulants and blood sugar is balanced, I think you'll have natural hunger signals.
We see that all the time. We have our members and our clients, they go through priming. In our priming program, you eat coffee comes after. And so food comes first. And it's so unnatural when people are first starting that. But we do see that after they have gotten through that transition, then their appetite actually starts opening up and they are hungry and they can eat early.
Well, I recommend fat in the mornings because that's the time that your cortisol is highest, and you can sort of support that.
Emily, you have experience with fat fasting. Share a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I have done it when I have actually wanted to see a rise in ketones. I've used it specifically for times that I wanted to get my ketones up that for some reason they weren't able to get up. So that's what I was curious about is strategically, holistically from a health perspective, because I mean, we love to teach people about fat loss and we love to encourage that, but our whole purpose is trying to get healing, trying to get systems to heal. That's the number one priority. So I was definitely curious, is there anything anything other than fat loss that you have used a therapeutic fat fast for?
Oh, balancing blood sugar, somebody who has bipolar issues, anxiety,
Yes.
depression, because you're ramming the core, you're affecting the fat, the stress response. The fat will balance your blood sugar so you will not have these spikes, rise and falls in blood sugar. And hypoglycemia, reactive hypoglycemia, takes the form of depression, anxiety, anger.
Wow.
Absolutely. Well, it loops back to around what Bella just said, that when people are having such a hard time with weight, that the number one thing she asked about is stress.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so this could be like a little tool that could be used to kind of, to help folks deal with that. So when I've used it in the past, it's like you said, I could only do it for so long. And then I really wanted a steak. It just made me crave a steak. Do you think that somebody could incorporate this, once a week, one day a week? What do you think about timing with that?
I think that you could try it, and there's no problem with it, because you are being nourished with energy. Ketones are great energy, and doing it once a week is not a problem. I don't think there's anything wrong with having a protocol like that.
So since this is the very first time fat fasting has been introduced to my channel, I wanted to go into more detail on who fat fasting is best for, how to start incorporating it. So coaches, if you guys don't mind just sharing your thoughts on who you think fat fasting is suitable for.
Absolutely. I have lots of clients that have come to me asking for a fat fasting program. I have experimented with fat fasting quite a bit myself. Some people are more sensitive. They might not be able to do a volume eating type of a protocol. And so some people, as much as they want to do our traditional priming program, which is amazing, it's just not in the cards for them. And so I'm so excited that we're providing a gentle option and that's more focused on fat fasting. I would add that some folks that might do well with this would be adrenal fatigue, high stress, cortisol, or they're in some kind of immune healing. There's a lot of autoimmune or stress type related situations that people are in, that this gentle priming is going to be a much smoother transition for them, and it will still get them the food freedom that they need. And we can still get them to a version of fat fasting. It's not going to be water fasting because their body's not ready for that right now.
Excellent. It's also probably great for long haul healers who want to take everything slow, but still want to see results. And now that Dr. Bright kind of gave us the green light to do fat fasting, I just love how you coaches are ready to teach it and ready to hold everybody's hands through it all.
Yes, we love Dr. Bright's encouragement on that, because we know she deals with all of these very difficult cases. I've had a client who was literally on crutches when he came to me. He decided to do it fat fasting after we spoke about it, and I told him I'd coach him through it. And he did that, and he was no longer on his crutches. He stopped taking his pain meds for his back. So incredible healing does happen through a fat fast. So there's no doubt that this helps, including, of course, staying carnivore.
I agree completely. I had a client who was 100% carnivore, and she just was not able to get her energy back. And we tried regular fasting, we tried priming, it just wasn't working for her. And once she shifted gears and incorporated more fat fasting, she got her energy back, and her healing journey started to unfold in front of her eyes. So for some people, this really is a wonderful option. I've been developing fatty recipes, fatty dips, tallow barks, all of these different ideas that I've been coming up with as I have incorporated more fat. And so we will make those available as well. We learn so much in community. Raymond and I have lots of experience in this that we want to share, and tips and tricks in fat fasting. So I'm just really thrilled that we're going to have an opportunity to teach this. It's going to be great.
Awesome. So if you guys would like to explore fat fasting and gentle priming, come join the Steak and Butter Gang, where you will have the guidance from these amazing coaches, Raymond and Emily. For more details and how to sign up for our next 30-day carnivore challenge, check out the links down below in the description box, or go to sbgmeetup.com.
I am so curious what a typical day of eating is for you. I don't know if you've asked that yet, Bella. Do you eat fat all day long? Do you wake up and eat it?
Yeah.
Okay,
I wake up and I have decaf with a ton of butter, and we whip it, and it's a cappuccino. And then I'm usually not hungry till lunch, and I'll have a small piece of steak with a piece of butter. If I'm working a lot during the day, I make my own beef jerky. I will go and get a little piece and put a slab of butter on it, work a couple hours, go back, get a piece of jerky and a slab of butter on it, and until dinner, and then I'll have another steak with butter. Wow. And I always have butter before I go to sleep.
When you eat out in Italy, what are you ordering in those restaurants?
Oh, it's hard. I don't eat out very much. There's
Okay.
a great steak place in San Remo. We just visited my daughter in Liguria. They do have steak. They'll have like Angus but might get like sliced salamis and things. They always have a tagliera, which is cheese. I hardly ever eat cheese, but if there's nothing else, I'll have that plus the salumi, which is the pork, different kinds of salami, very fatty.
You travel quite a bit. What do you take with you when you're traveling?
I buy butter where I am. So I love countries like Prague, countries like Czechoslovakia, because you go anywhere and can I have some butter with this dish? Oh yeah, sure. Boom.
Wow.
You go anywhere in Italy, they think you're nuts, and all they have is olive oil. And I have to have a fridge, or I've hung a baggie of butter out. I did this in Glasgow, visiting my daughter, staying in a hotel, of butter because there was no fridge. A baggie with a thing of butter in it. I hung it out the window, closed the window so it was held outside and it was chilled by the night air. So
Wow.
Love that. Wow, that's a great idea. Over here in the States, don't trust them with what butter is. Usually it's like soy butter. Like we went to Waffle House and we're like, ask for butter. And we're like, because this is soy in there. And then they give us the thing from what they cook in, and it's all the same. It's ridiculous. This was wonderful. Thank you for joining us on this and entertaining our questions. Really appreciate that. Yeah.
I'm so glad awesome. We touched in depth about stress and cortisol. I think it's going to help the audience so much.
It's going to help us a lot.
Yeah. So for the viewers, if they want to support you, Dr. Bright, in what ways can they support you, find you, and work with you?
Well, they can buy my book. They can find me. I have a new email address contact on my website, which is eliz@elizbright.com, and then Instagram and YouTube.
Okay, I can be found over on Instagram also and Facebook. The best way is through the SB Gang on Mighty Networks.
Agreed. My passion and my heart is working with folks in the gang. So that's the best way to reach out to me as well. But I am on Instagram @HealedByMeat. So you can find me there as well.
Excellent. I've linked everything down below in the description box. Please open it up, click on the links, and you can order Dr. Bright's book on Amazon. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Thank you, Dr. Bright. This was amazing.
Thank you, Dr. Bright. Amazing. Great
Good
talk.
to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please do not hesitate to share this video with your friends and family and in your favorite carnivore communities. Dr. Bright is a regular visiting guest speaker in the Steak and Butter Gang community. So if you want to learn from Dr. Bright live on Zoom and submit your personal questions for her to answer, please join the next 30-day Carnivore Challenge. She will be a December challenge guest speaker, and so will the rest of the faces shown on the screen. It's going to be another fantastic month of learning, inspiration, and connection. Thank you all again for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Have a good day.